All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of Lightbox. This is Sunday, the final stretch. And here we have a cast of wonderful artists requested by Iris Muddy. She wanted to do this fun little panel roundtable discussion. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and introduce each one after I share my screen. I forgot to do that. So share screen. Don't show these tips again. Window, entire screen. Yeah, we want to do entire screen. Cool. All right, minimize this. Clearly, I'm not experienced enough to be prepared for this part ahead of time. Okay, cool.
We're all
Like a
judging.
decade.
Right, so first we have Iris Muddy. Met her back at Lightbox 2018, 2019. When was Lightbox? Whatever that was.
Back in
Anyway,
the good
times.
days.
Yeah.
Have no
Sure.
memories.
Yeah. Here's her work. She's amazing. She's going to be hosting this session actually by asking us questions and hopefully seeing that evolve into various answers.
Yeah.
So yeah, you did like stuff for Ori and the Blind Forest, the sequel.
No,
right?
the second one, yeah.
Yeah,
The first
the
one was
sequel.
just,
Yeah, cool stuff. All right. And next up we have Sunmin Inn, who I know from Art Center back in the day.
that's so
and
cool.
Go ahead and say hello.
Oh.
Yeah. Art director at Netflix. How cool.
And just general boss lady.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
Jesus.
stop.
Amazing work. And she did start a YouTube channel. I'm going to share that here.
Heck yeah.
So let's help her out, and she's
Oh my
Around
god.
this-
great storyteller.
Vibe.
Lots of puppet stuff, and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Right on. Next up, we have Devin Korwin. I'm going to go ahead and click this, Devin. Over in Montreal, Canada.
Plug the learning content.
Oh, yeah, so let's just open up the Gumroad. What do we got here? Cool stuff, I'm sure.
This-
But, well, let's look at the work real quick. Painter extraordinaire. In my opinion, wonderful use of values and composition. And
Those are
not
Gunsinger
just- yeah,
Sergeant, so
Right,
all
right.
compliments. to you.
See what happened is I clicked and I looked over at this screen thinking I clicked something of yours. But anyway, yeah, your
I
paintings
wish.
it carries a sort of classic vibe though, with
Yeah.
how you use composition
you.
and value and shadow, even the modeling of the clothing here. Absolutely wonderful. So he'll be joining our talk today, as well as Lip Comarella. All right, how do I say it?
Help us.
It's impossible. to pronounce.
Comarella?
No, it's
Comarella?
Comarella.
Comarella.
Yeah.
All right. Also over at Netflix from Italy in LA. So, shape design master, I would say. I remember you did these landscape pieces a while back, and I'm just like, I'm actually jealous, and that jealousy makes me upset. So especially this one, I remember looking at that, and I'm like, ugh.
I like the
That's such
mountains.
a bold move to put a smile on that mountain.
There's a little trick, and we don't have to elaborate it. But if your paintings suck, you put a face on what sucked, and then it turns it into a majestic painting. Just put a face. If it sucks, put a face on.
I mean, it was already majestic, but yeah.
Yeah, those are nice mountains.
Anyway, cool. So these are the... Wait. Were you the one? No way. Do you have a series of these? Yes. Okay. You might have another one as well. I remember referencing that a long time ago when I was on a studio project. We were trying to do stylized trees. And that was... Yeah, anyway, not going to reveal too much. But I can go ahead and hand it off to Iris. I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at chat. I'm going to unshare my screen.
Okay.
And you could take over.
All right. Okay, one sec. Let me open my little document where I have my little questions and stuff.
Yeah. I'll try to read chat, then whatever the question is, I'll go last.
All right. Okay. So I really dig the visual choices I see you guys making. You guys are all bold and kind of have your individual personality. And I don't know, it just gives me great enthusiasm to know that I can ask you guys how you feel about stuff and share that with other people. So that's why I asked you to be here. And I think it's a little bit weird because, when you tell someone you have good taste in music, it's kind of like a like I think I have good taste kind of thing. So maybe it's just like I like what you guys like and I think you're cool because of that, but whatever. So anyways, the thing I want to do is like a little bit general. I don't really want to make it too much about like let's help everybody learn to have their own voice. I want a little bit of that, but I also kind of want to like psychoanalyze you a little bit and
Let's
you
do
know
it.
find out about your individual experience.
I'll lie
you know.
down on the couch.
Yeah, lie down on the treadmill. Okay, so a couple of us have talked about similar ideas before, but yeah, I just want to pick your brains about this. So I have like 25 questions. That's a bit much. I don't think we'll be able to get through them all, but I want to like get kind of everybody's view. If you really don't want to answer something, that's okay, but you know, it'd be cool to try a little bit.
My
All right,
answer
so-
is yes for every question.
Well, even like a really terrible one?
Are there multiple choice?
Maybe. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so I will start with something light. So people looking at your work probably have a few things they instantly pick up on about how your work comes across. Like if you seem really interested in design or concept, volume and mass, or mood, light, specific line work, loose brushwork, strong angles, something like that. But I think it'd be really interesting just to hear, to start off, how you each describe kind of what you naturally or consciously do, little style elements or tendencies that you enjoy or feel are present in what you do, and anything you want to share about how that developed.
It's a light
wanna-
question.
Do we want to go in order?
It's a light one.
Whoever's talking, I could show their work on screen so that.
I mean, I can kick it off. Just say something stupid in the beginning so everybody looks better after.
It doesn't have to be complex either.
Somebody told me a while ago that oh, your work is so cool because even though your drawing is completely wrong, it still looks cool. And it's just, I'm trying to make it right. Do you understand? I'm not making this on purpose. But I guess I always try to. It tends to be metaphysical, but there's a sensation of being sort of really pulled by the shirt into the image. And so whenever I draw my shapes and my lines, I really want to feel that drag. Like it's almost like a physical thing. There is a kind of a suction that happens through the expression of depth. So whenever I put down either colors or just forms, I subject it to that sensation. And to a degree or another, it works sometimes. But sort of that clear flow inside in the image that sort of don't lets you out feels like an achievable or is a worthwhile goal to strive for, at least for me, and especially on pieces that tend to be exercise or just self-enjoyment.
Beautiful. I love your description of being pulled into it by the shirt.
Yeah, a lot of energy to that.
And I think each one of these pulls you in one way or another, whether it's like the train, the perspective, the wonk, or the face.
Yes.
I think that's why they feel like complete pieces. Like there's nothing you could add or take away. It's like everything plays a part in it. And I like it when things stop becoming specific objects, but like work their way abstractly into the image and are basically just like, you know, this is a tree, but it also has this particular amount of pull to it, you know, in terms of how much contrast it's adding to the image.
Yes. Even pipes. Is that just like a lonely mountain?
Yeah, it's
chilling in an alleyway.
This is a series of self-portraits as mountain because I believe I am at core a mountain. But I used to be in New York, and it was to a degree another kind of a jarring experience. So the portraits become kind of sad too, but everything has changed since then. So yeah,
beautiful. Great. Wait, I think I scrolled past it. I think you have a Patreon, correct? There it is. Yeah.
I do. Where I forced myself to, and that ties to what I said before. Like, it's good to have something just to sharpen your knives on, and because the biggest challenge for me has always been sitting down at a table and then what? Should I in theory I should be doing the best piece I've ever done, because finally there's no client just hitting me on the head with his wishes, but then it's so hard to do anything. So I really found just laying out what do I want from a picture, and more what kind of topic I can always go back to and practice that effect. So that's why you see so many mountains for different styles, but you see so many of the same things, because I wanna. It's a sandbox that gives you safety and protects you by being lost, of having to reinvent your own wheel every time, and it's a giant bottleneck for me to think about the what every time. I just want to think about the how for change.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. I'm gonna have to rewatch this video so I can take notes. Because I'm
Please don't.
Really well put, man. Great.
And there's a lot you can say just with how you do something, like not necessarily the subject matter, but just like the means of actual expression. I think like going back to Sargent's work, like when he was painting rich people all day, I think that's what he did. I mean, there's not much there in terms of like narrative or anything, and I think there's a lot of lyrical content and poetry within how he's actually just applying paint.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Cool. I guess Devin, would you want to answer that question next?
Sure. Yeah, I think when I was first starting, I was really obsessed with form, and I thought you had to work like really hard to get a sense of form. And there's a lot of artists that just had so much like solidity to their work with like a tactile feel to it, and that's what I really want to get across. But I think it's almost like the harder you work at that, the less successful you are. And I was definitely like, just like to make something look round. It's not that hard. You can do it in like 2 seconds, like with a circle with an ellipse, marquee, and then you just add like light side, shadow side. 2 seconds, you have like a very convincing suggestion of form. And I think it was when my brother looked at my work, and he's a graphic designer, and he said to me, like, I think he just said like composition, like it was a riddle to figure out, because my work didn't have that kind of like completeness to it. Nothing felt like it was a complete statement. Just like exercises trying to figure out how form worked. And then I think when he said like, composition, I realized that if you focus on, you have four like a frame, and you're putting elements inside of the frame. And if you think of that as like an abstract exercise, then you can say so much more. And it's like the painting starts painting itself when you stop focusing on when you stop zooming in mentally, when you look at the kind of the big picture. I think that's kind of just generally how my work has developed over time and it's still difficult, I think, like to see the big picture or something. I always have to stop myself, especially like when working from life. You get this like tunnel vision of, okay, this value next to this value is, and you wind up overstating things, and you wind up losing sight of what you're actually trying to communicate.
And it actually kills it in a way.
Yeah, and I don't know if it ever becomes completely second nature, because I still have to fight with myself to remind myself, like, take a second, slow down, see how everything relates to everything else, and I think also like not rushing is a big part of that.
I stopped on this piece because that's incredible.
Thank you.
It has very Orientalist vibes, and the vibration of the red against the pots and the skin tone and the cloth, that is...
So I think to add to what I was saying is last year I think it's when I made this. So I went from, very specific objects with form and without having like a composition really, to then entirely composition. I think it was because of like a compensating for a lack of drawing ability, probably, because it wasn't developed enough. And I think now I'm trying to combine all of them into... I don't want to give myself too many things where it's like I don't know what that is, because I did that so much. Like, this is just a brushstroke here that has to be there so you don't fall out of the frame, basically, like Cliff was saying. But now I don't want to give myself that kind of out. Like, that has to be a specific object, and it has to play that specific role abstractly.
Interesting.
Can you mention the... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you...
No, good.
Is that Isaac Levingham?
Yeah.
Yeah, love that stuff. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Iris, go for it. You got the floor.
Just one, really quick. What's the thing again with the colors that you have? Your vision.
Oh, color blindness?
Yeah, can you say something about that? If it affects.
Yeah, I have mild red-green color blindness. I don't think it really affects. It definitely plays more of a role working traditionally because you don't get a color picker and you don't get the sliders. But the sliders, it's almost like you don't need to be able to see it, because like if you think of color as a 3D space, you can like make design decisions based on their relationships visually. So if I can't tell the difference between something, I'll just think of it like that. But I think it's almost helped me out because in one way I focus more on value and its importance, because sometimes color would be a little bit confusing.
The reason I asked is that like
Just done it more
nobody would
intuitively,
notice, like nobody would know that you have anything at all like that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not sure how severe it is. I've never seen in normal color vision. I did try those colorblind glasses a few years ago, and it was very interesting.
Did they work?
An intense effect. And I remember I did see a completely new color when I tried that. I looked at a color wheel with the glasses on, and just this area of purple appeared, and that was completely
How does
new
that
to me.
feel?
And it was crazy. I mean, we basically just tried them on at the store, and they're only like $300 or something. But $300 to experience a new color, I feel like is a discount. So I should pick one of those up.
A fellow musician.
Yeah, I play guitar also, and in my teaching I use a lot of music analogies because I really think it's the same thing. Like
Scale.
Going back to color, like Beethoven. Not to compare myself, but like Beethoven being deaf, like being able to understand. Okay, this note is this distance away from this note. You can just like do that on the paper and make those decisions. I think it's a very similar thing. So I use a lot of musical analogies because really the way that both of them work. I mean, painting and music and composing. It's all just making decisions about relationships. And these are very, very old.
Okay. Yeah, well, I wanted to go all the way back. Yeah, dude, totally. I think music.
I think you can see in these less of like specific things. And I think as it goes on, I'm trying to use more objects. And that was inspired a lot by Alma Tadema, who I think does that really successfully. And where he's not.
Have you seen his work in person?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. It's pretty wild. Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, dude, awesome stuff. But I do have to do a quick sidetrack. All these people, this is completely unrelated. They're all at the wrong stream. Wrong stream, guys.
Don't bully!
Come to my stream, please.
I don't condone bullying.
I don't know if you guys know Sinix, but he's a friend of mine. Okay, anyway, we could move on to the next person if you like.
That's either you or Sunmin.
We'll go Sunmin.
Okay. So I don't have much of a, I guess like I don't think foundationally. Whenever I'm drawing or designing, I actually take a really long time because I tend to think about my inspirations. And when I do think about my inspirations, like let's say like I'm looking at Klimt, right? And I love Klimt. Like out of a lot of artists, I love Klimt, but there's like this like one thing that he does that I can't really verbally describe, but I know as like a feeling, something that he does, like this one thing. And then I think about all the other artists that I'm really inspired by and that one thing that they do. And then I try to like capture that. It's very like kooky. Like I can't really explain it. So when I'm like drawing or designing, and I feel like I'm more of a draftsman and a designer, but when I'm drawing, like I'm constantly like changing the shapes. I'm like putting in certain lines, like, Egon Schiele or something. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but like I'm putting down these kind of lines to make sure that it's getting there. But then sometimes I'm like very happy with like a section of something, and sometimes I'm like, oh, this was a good attempt, but this is not quite what I'm looking for. So it's very like the way that I approach things is very experimental, which could be a double-edged sword because like I've almost made it my skill to have a lot of happy accidents, but then the downside of that is that it's difficult to reproduce something again, and
I feel the same.
Yeah.
And that's tough commercially too, when you like have to do a specific thing.
Exactly. And now that like, I'm having to like guide a team and stuff like that, it's now I'm really, okay, now what am I actually doing? So it's like I have to like put it down, and when a happy accident happens, I really have to analyze, okay, why do I think that this is a happy accident, just an accident? So it's like really put my mind into a place where I really need to understand why I like something and why I dislike something, which is it's also very subjective, so that's kind of like how I go about the way that I do stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so you and I, excuse me, both graduated from Art Center. Do you feel that Art Center, I need water or something, over prepared you? I feel like it did a bit of too much boot camping with the amount of work that we did. Do you feel that way too?
Do you mean by like over preparing, meaning that it was like too much?
Yeah, because I feel like the industry was actually easier than what we had to go through at school.
Yeah, you know what? I really appreciate my time at Art Center. It was great because like I went to a art high school in Korea that was a little bit very, very laid back.
Oh,
so
okay.
I thought that this would do me some good, and so I went to Art Center and I realized how intense everything is, and the way that they give feedback is very harsh. But then you think that that's normal, so you just kind of like continue kind of going with it and all that stuff. And I feel like there's a lot of things that I can appreciate where it's about presentation. It's not just about you finishing your work and like turning it in. It's actually about what's the format, like what's the layout, what's graphic design wise, like how are you presenting it, are you presenting it printed out on the foam core or whatever, and
oh yeah
how you talk to the teachers and how you're expressing your ideas, like that was really helpful to me. And you know what, I do think that compared to Art Center, the industry is a little bit more laid back.
Yeah.
Which was a good thing. I think that it was a really good thing, and I appreciate my time there.
I agree.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it helped cultivate kind of your personal voice at all, or was that something you already had going into it?
I honestly think that at the time when I was going to school, they had really emphasized foundation. They really emphasized certain steps and like certain methods on how to go about art. And so I do feel like when I went in right before I went into Art Center, I felt like I was more creative because I didn't think about all these like foundational things, but it really prepared me for, let's say, now I can not just do my style, like I can do other styles now because I have that foundation after going to school.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they like taught us like pure creativity. It was really more of like, how can you fit into the industry? How can you do a job right? So it was a good experience, but I feel like there could be a little bit of balance of like a little bit of freedom and method, but maybe they're doing that now. So
I don't think so. I have a lot of students who go to Art Center who are frustrated by that aspect.
I see.
I think that I think it's important to know like what a school offers and B what you want to get out of that school. Because I mean, if you look at like I think a lot of Art Center portfolios like look very similar. And I do think it takes work outside of that kind of school to develop your personal voice and to figure out what you like. Because I think that like homework that an entire class is doing is probably not the best way to discover that, I think, for yourself.
But then again, if you no, go ahead, sorry.
No, look, go ahead.
No, because I was just sort of trying to ask myself what I would have wanted, because I have no artistic education at all, and I had been fighting my whole career, or sort of until now, to fill those holes with whatever I could, just trying to cheat my way, and just looking at portfolios or sort of my peers that went to Art Center. They have this rock solid understanding to perform under pressure. They just know how to do things, and some just don't go beyond doing things in one way they have been taught, and some really go beyond that and be creative. But I feel it's truly a benefit and a blessing on a net perspective, I think, to be sort of have that ammunition to not fight your mistakes, if you as if you don't have that education, and that formal equation. You don't have to wing all the time, and you can again concentrate more on the what, and because on your job you have to, it's not about the how anymore.
Right. It's like, learning the engineering of how to build a house, but then how do you make a house that reflects you and not your school's style or something?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the house style. And yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that does require like its own journey post learning the tools, so that you can kind of ask yourself and discover.
And sometimes you don't realize how much it is affecting you until after. I think you have to take stock kind of at certain times to, am I still doing what I want? I went to an atelier for about 3 months, and I had to. It took me 3 months of the atelier, and then I think it took me about a year to 2 years after that to undo a lot of the things that I didn't want from it. And it was really strange because I hadn't had a lot of formal education before that, and it was just a strange feeling to be like, are these decisions that I'm making, who are they coming from, and what does that communicate?
Mm-hmm. Where was the atelier, by the way?
The Florence Academy, and it was I think it's closed now, or it's changed since I've been there, but it was the US branch, so it was outside of New York City.
Right on. Cool.
Ahmed, do you want to share your any style elements and tendencies and where they might come from?
Right. Let's see. We could just move on to the next question and just
No, I'm actually really interested in hearing this from you.
Let's see. What was the original question again? I could just riff off of what you said, but
it's just I love how you guys opened it up to more stuff. But since you're asking, it was just describing a little bit of what you naturally or consciously do, little style elements and tendencies that you think are present in your work, where they might come from. I think anything else.
Yeah, I think the common tendency is absolute and utter laziness. There's whatever I'm looking at before I even draw it. We discussed this yesterday or 2 days ago on the live stream, but I tend to try to find a simplified way to do the thing. And I studied a lot of Sargent to try to down to the brush strokes and how he layered them. And so I think the main takeaway from what I tend to do, I don't know if it's out of anxiety and trying to get things done and presentable as soon as possible or something, but just get the impression of what I'm trying to do at a thumbnail level first, and then maybe go in. But I think the looseness is pretty much the main thing. The looseness of conveying things in a simplified way, and then as you zoom in, it you might look for complexity, but it usually gets even simpler.
I feel like all you guys handle simplicity and working smart, not hard. Not that you don't work hard, but I feel you work smarter than. You know what I mean? You work really smart, and I really like that about all you guys. Yeah.
Thanks, Iris. It's weird to be answering this question without it sounding like some kind of flex. But
no.
But I'm gonna flex anyway. I tend to draw faces a lot, so there's the challenges that I used to run for. Actually, still going. There's no limit, but the 100 Heads challenge. It was really helpful to expand the variety of different faces, because before a lot of the faces I did were pretty similar, but after a challenge like that, it just introduced more, I guess, pushed proportions and stuff like that. So I guess that values and color I tend to enjoy doing a lot. I do want to highlight some weaknesses though, and it's I want to do more storytelling shots like this, that it's not really about the technique. And I think what Lip was referring to as like the what and not the how, or how and not the what, because I feel like a lot of this is my attempt to make it a demo reel of like, look what I can do, everyone. And I want to, take this time in the next couple weeks and months to kind of try to say something that's more me, aside from, a tech demo perspective.
Awesome.
Yeah. There's a piece I wanted to, one of my favorite pieces. Where'd it go? I know it's here somewhere. Here it is.
Instagram is hard.
I find the things that I do enjoy the most doing, though, are things for people who I know. And it was this, I think his name is Robert Aldis or something. It was his birthday, and he loves corgis, and that's Nina with Baby Yoda. And I enjoyed doing this and sharing it more so than any of like these portraits or, cool fantasy thing with the eagle. It's cool and all, but stuff like this carries more weight.
Yeah. When there's some kind of like emotional connection to what you're doing, I think weight is the right word.
Yeah, that's cool to know.
One other one, this was for Steven Zapata's birthday. So when I was his roommate back in the day at Art Center, we had this shaving cream in the bathroom. It was Barbasol. And every time he would go in to shave, you'd hear him in the bathroom going, Barabbasol, Barabbasol. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I always imagine it as a Pokemon saying its name. And for his birthday, I made a Pokemon card of Barabbasol.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm still a child. It is what it is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I really like that you're going through and saying like something you like or something you don't like, because I feel like when we go on someone's page, people, like maybe us as ourselves, we assume that people know what we like and don't like about what we're doing, but nobody can enter our mind and know what dissatisfies us, what we feel we've accomplished, what we're working on, our ambitions. No one knows that actually until we clarify it somehow. So it's so cool knowing that.
Yeah.
Provides a lot of insight.
Well, wait, what about you?
I don't want to talk
answer the
about me,
question,
Jerry.
too.
No, I don't want to actually at all. I just want to hear about you guys. So can we move on to the next question?
My God. All right, sure.
All right. So, okay. I think that I have to compress it unless we guys don't mind being here like for a while. But okay.
Yeah,
I wanted
that's
to,
a
let's see
question.
which thing would be cool to ask next. All right. I want to ask if there's an influence in your life that helped you know that you wanted to choose to follow your intuition. It's not like an influence that's visual, like an artist you love, unless that person fills the same role. But it's like a teacher or a person or even like a movie or anything that made you feel like, let's go for this. Like I'm gonna try and make it work my way, and anything like that in your life.
I was very frustrated by painting at a certain point, and I thought like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was looking into going to like VFX school or something and doing entirely 3D and just like not painting. And I went to the Massive Black Convention in Los Angeles in 2013, and I think that was definitely like the moment when I said, because if you looked at my work before then, I was doing things I didn't care about at all because I thought that's how you get work. I was making like fantasy magic cards, and it wasn't sincerely what I was interested in, but I saw other people doing that. So it was like, I don't even know if it was a conscious thing. But I wasn't getting work. I just think it wasn't really coming across. It was kind of like half-heartedly done, and still probably like a little bit sketchy and unfinished looking. And I think when I went to the convention and I saw a talk by Tom Scholes and got a portfolio review by Theo Prinz, I think it was the two of them, where it was like, okay, they are doing something that is completely unique because they're just being themselves. They're not trying to do anything else. Yeah, and by virtue of that, other people love what they're doing because it's completely unique, and they get a lot of work because nobody else can do what they do. So then to me, it just seemed like, okay, this is logically the only way to proceed. It doesn't make sense to copy what other people are doing. And it took a lot of experimentation after that, but there was definitely like kind of a light bulb moment seeing their work in person.
Yeah, Teo Prinz is wonderful. I've worked with him over at ArenaNet for a little bit. Great guy. Tom Scholes as well. Amazing. Go ahead.
Just on a side note, sometimes Tom has told me that it's actually rough being able to do just the thing you do. Not to like disincentivize that, because I also think it's like do what you do or else what is your life, you know? But it can be hard as well, even for these people who we think are like just having it easy and gliding, you know? Yeah.
I think it's always difficult.
Yeah.
I just think it's easier doing it this way.
Yeah, I think so.
So to recap, you had a talk with them. They saw your work, and you saw in them that they were just doing their own thing instead of, I guess, almost serving this assumption that you're supposed to do magic card with shiny armor and a dragon in the background. Okay, cool.
I think to add to that question is when I was in college, there was no Lightbox. It was just CTN. And so I had taken my portfolio to CTN, and I went up to this very famous artist who I looked up to. And right before my turn, there was another friend of mine who was standing in front of me and showed their portfolio to this person. And they looked through it, the artist looked through it, and then, gave a critique to my friend, and then my friend left, good luck, it was my turn. And this artist, as soon as this artist saw my portfolio, the cover, the artist was like, "Are you from Art Center?"
Shit.
And I had said, yes. And then this guy, he was flipping through the portfolio without looking at the portfolio and telling me, y'all, Art Center people have to make sure that it doesn't look all similar to each other. And he was not looking down at my work. And I was like,
wait, is this the portfolio with the two characters and the portfolio on your website?
I think it was that one. No, it was one before that. So it was just schoolwork mixed with my own work and all that stuff. So this artist was just flipping through, right? And I'm dying inside because I'm nervous. I'm a student. And
you're it's not a flip book.
Yeah, I know. And he wasn't even looking at it. And then at a certain point he was talking, and then you look down at a page that I had done kind of for myself. And then he was like, "Oh." And then he flipped all the way back to the front. And then he was just like, "Oh, okay. This is Art Center work." And then he stopped at the page that I had done for myself again. He was like, "You should keep doing this. You'll be able to make it in the industry if you keep doing this, And that was a moment where it was almost like a confirmation. As a student, you're insecure. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. And him kind of saying that, somebody I respect so much and look up to, saying that really gave me confirmation. Okay, I need to keep doing, what I'm doing. And if you look at my work, it's really campy. My work is very campy, and it's very Ren and Stimpy and all that stuff. And
yes.
Love it.
With
the Klimt in there.
That's so cool.
Yes, there we go. But when I was in school, especially when I was graduating, one of my instructors, he was very concerned that I was not going to get a job because my work looked too Ren and Stimpy, And
interesting.
Yeah, and he was like, you should maybe tone it down because if you want to work in the industry, you have to have taste, and your taste is a little bit campy. If you listen to my
bad taste.
Yeah, well, he was trying to get there, but he didn't want to hurt my taste.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I was working on this portfolio, and then the teacher was saying that you gotta be careful with your taste and whatnot. But I just kept remembering that moment at CTN, and I was like, no, I think I'm just gonna do this because
good.
It was I've been following the Art Center pipeline for so long, and I was trying to be strict with it, but I'm graduating, and so it's my FU, and I'm gonna do this, okay? I'm gonna do this, and if I fail, then it's all on me. If I do well, then great that I tried it, Yeah. But that was kind of the moment that really, really helped me out to pursue my own thing, I guess. Even when I look at this, it's still very much, I'm very self-conscious of wanting to be a studio artist. If you look at the characters, they're my version of a Disney character or a Pixar character, But
I love the shape design here. Oh my god.
thank you. I'm just like really happy that I at least pursued what I would be happy doing, you know? So
Earlier you mentioned those German artists, Egon Schiele and Klimt. I could totally see.
Austrian.
Yeah, I see that too.
It's a beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
really. I wouldn't have noticed unless you mentioned it, but it's.
yeah, like I feel like
It makes it feel so classy.
it's my inspirations. I always feel like it's pretty obvious to me, you know, because so when somebody asks me what my inspirations are, I'm kind of surprised that they ask because I feel like it's so obvious. Like, well, it's like I'm copying like Klimt, I'm copying Egon Schiele, and like I'm copying like Jamie Hewlett, I'm copying like Nurs Tomonara. I'm copying so many things, but then maybe it's just like a lot of combinations of things that maybe it's not obvious for somebody who's not me, but like I always feel like I'm like it's like on the page, like my inspirations are like right there, you know. But
It, like this is Egon's work. I don't know. Looking at your work, I could. If you told me, I would have guessed it. But yeah, I know what you mean. Where it's like, it's obvious to you, but to other artists, when you mix enough of your influences, it's a completely new blend. So, I think you did a great job.
Also,
coming
you,
up with your
it's
own-
you interpreting them. It's not just copy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so incredible.
Cool. All right, who's next? Iris, you there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think Lip has a
Well, I
story.
can. I was trying to think about how to answer, because I'll start with the most Italian thing to say. My mom always said that you can be bad at everything as long as you're good at one thing. Because if you don't have one thing, you're basically an asshole. And it sounds too harsh in English, but because I had Latin, ancient Greek at school, and I was not bad, but I was kind of trash in a sense. Like I could have been so much better if I actually loved it more. And my class, we were just 8 people in my class, and everybody was really, really good, like true nerd, high end students. And me being decently good, but the worst in the class, sort of got me that sensation that, yeah, okay, I can be bad at everything, but I will have this other secret that I will do art. But then there was no education, but just when I finished studying advertising, I decided just before I wanted to graduate, I'm gonna make an animated short film. And that sounded like, I have no idea how to do it, but I pulled through just simplifying it as much as I could. And then what happened is I got an email after it got released that this father has showed a picture of his daughter, and she was crying because she kind of so liked the ending of the movie. And that was the moment, like, oh, you can produce this with the most trash movie you created in the first time. So what if you actually learned how to do things? You can just, it's gonna be a nuclear explosion. That's what I thought. So yeah, at the end of the day, like, yeah, as soon as I saw what those things, those stories, those images can do to people, I was sold. Like, I don't have to be good at anything. I want to just touch people with what touches me. I mean, it sounds like a platitude, but it actually what happened, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. Wow.
And you, Ahmed?
Huh?
Is there
What was
like
the
a
question?
moment
Sorry.
or a person?
I was
Is there
getting
like
lost in Lip's work.
Yeah. Is there
What?
some kind of an influence, like a person or a moment or a story, anything that made you know, like, yeah, I'm going to make it work my way and just go for it, as yourself?
I think, I don't know if it was like one specific event, but I think having watched Ian McCaig's Gnomon DVD of visual storytelling, I wonder if I could pull up that. Let's see, Ian McCaig. And he has a series where he kind of in a very animated way and a very welcoming way, describe the creative process and in a sort of way where it's not like, all right, here's the silhouette, here's what you got to research, here's what. It's more like you press play and you watch this video and it's like, don't run away. If you can dream, you can make art. We're gonna dream on paper. And so it was like this kind of otherworldly, like, what is this guy talking about? I want this. And so it was a sort of permission to be like, you don't have to make art for money, for jobs, for the industry. While that could, pay the bills, and whatever, he represented an icon for me, or more of a beacon, saying, hey, there's something else that you can do with art that's beyond, I guess, the material part of this world. And I guess that would be the main thing, because I think that the rest of my career or art journey was more of like, how do I do it? And trying to figure out how Craig Mullins paints the way he does, which gave me the tools. But if anything, I think it was Ian McKeag that kind of shifted things in that direction.
I love that he never ceases to inspire people to look at things in a more holistic, like pure, true way that has more meaning than they're used to hearing. And he's still doing that today. He just half an hour ago, I was in an AMA listening to him in Discord, and he inspired me so much, and he inspired hundreds of people all the time. So beautiful to have wholesome inspirations like that.
Yeah, I always, even coming up before the first Lightbox, in my mind, I always wanted to be him. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be the enthusiastic guy on stage and acting out the characters and getting the audience involved. But the more I was around him, witnessing it in person at Lightbox, because he was there and had to talk with him a little bit, I realized that's not me. I think he gave me a good starting point from when I was younger, but it also helped me realize that I have my own thing that I could do for me. And you don't have to be exactly like your heroes. So, kind of comes full circle that way back to who you originally
are. A great nugget. Yeah, that's really great. Because you are inspired by him being himself to be your version of yourself. So. Right.
Even if I'm the exact opposite, his very shadow, to take him down and destroy him.
Evil. You're dark, Ian.
Where there's a rise, there must be a fall, my friend.
Mirror universe.
Yeah.
All right, that was beautiful. Thank you guys so much. These are great, beautiful answers. I love it.
I think you should answer one of them.
No, I really don't want to. Seriously.
What if it's a quick, 10-second thing?
Maybe one of them later. Okay, that's a good idea. All right. Okay, so next thing. Okay, what do I want to ask? Oh my gosh, you guys are taking too long, but it's so amazing. So, okay, so,
only yes and no answers.
No, that's so boring. I'm so interested in everything you guys are saying. Okay.
That's the thing I find with this kind of interview format with artists, especially in the creative world. I usually come in with a whole list of ideas, and we end up taking two, and that extrapolates to the whole podcast. So it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but thank you guys so much for delving deep into your mind and your past. This is super interesting to me. And to everyone listening, I'm sure. But this is selfish, honestly. Just wanted to hear you guys talk. All right. So, okay. Is there... Yeah, I wanted to ask about your family, because Lip mentioned his mom. And I wanted to ask if you guys... Do you guys feel like you have a family that's quirky or interesting? Or anything in your upbringing that you feel stands out a bit, contributes to your expressiveness, or anything at all like that?
I could probably answer that one real quick. Well, my grandma did oil paintings. So I kind of saw her painting flowers and scenes of lakes growing up here and there. So there was a bit of creative element to my family. And I remember when I was a kid too, when we first came to the States, we're refugees from Iraq. We were in an apartment somewhere in California, and I just wanted to see someone draw something. So I handed my mom this some booklet with I think it was meant for taking notes for checkbooks. I don't know. I was like, can you draw something, just a person? And she just drew a full, person. It wasn't the best in the world, but it it was my first, I guess, glimpse into, hey, we kind of have a creative side to us in our family. And the weird thing is, like, my brother also is a very good artist. We went, and my sister, she can, I remember she had a sketchbook. She drew Link and Zelda and characters from Final Fantasy. My brother would do robots and drawings of Dante from Devil May Cry. But once they saw me excel past them, they both quit. I'm like, come on, like, what the heck? But yeah, we do have a bit of quirkiness in our family. And my dad being a sort of, he's a doctor, but he's very engineer minded. He likes to look at things and deconstruct them and try to figure out a way to rebuild things. He would always like find ways to invent things in the house to make things easier for like irrigation or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was a mixed bag, of course, because not everything was rainbows and sunshine. I don't think anyone has that growing up, but yeah, I guess there was a little bit of that.
I think that the thing you're trying not to say really is like the more difficult part is something that I know I experienced some of as well, and some other people have too, like, more kind of types of abusive childhoods. Yeah. And it's bad, it's super bad, but we have grown into people who have integrated it in a constructive way into who we are, right? Like, yeah. We grew past our trauma, and it gives us attributes to our personality that we've found positives through. So, yeah.
Totally. And one of my ways of surviving as a child, I guess, amongst turmoil was to kind of track how people are feeling, but also lighten the load of the room to be, I guess, say something funny or do something funny or kind of have a balance. And so I guess I'm wired to like make people laugh or do silly things like this, which has meaning to it.
But I can really relate to, especially like being emotionally aware of like how other people are feeling, and I think that's just kind of realizing that now.
Empaths unite.
Being tuned to like the emotional effects of things, which is really what painting is. It's like, if you make this decision, how does that change what you're communicating emotionally? And I think just being tuned into that is probably one of the most important skills.
Yeah, it's also overwhelming sometimes.
Very.
Like, go home and recharge and be away from people, Yeah.
But both my grandmothers were artists also, both oil painters, and I think everything really. On my dad's side, she went to art school in Paris before the war and did a lot of later in her career, like Jewish art and illustrating things from the Bible. Really, really interesting, cool stuff. And also just like that, like every subject, floral portraits, and both of my dad and my brother are dentists. And I think there's also like maybe like a manual dexterity kind of thing that's involved there. Just like using your hands.
Right on.
Cool. Lips on it?
I kind of like relate to what you said, Iris, earlier. I think that when I was a kid, I had a really hard time. And my kind of way to avoid the difficulties that I've experienced was to do art. And it was really funny because art was my way out. So, when I did well, I got accepted to this high school that had it was a boarding school. So I could stay in a dormitory, which was like great. And so like I used art almost as a way to, find my own happiness. And I think that it was a really good way to use art. Like maybe if I, didn't have ADHD, like, I would have journaled, you know what I mean? And that would have been like my way out or whatever, but art was like kind of my way to do that. And then as I kind of, developed my skill and then went to college and like working, I realized that that negativity was still hooked into my art, you know, where I was using it as a tool to make sure that I was constantly running away, or like I was like, you know, getting to a better place, right?
It was an escape.
Yeah, it was an escape, but then it was a negative kind of, with a negative connotation, you know what I mean? So I had to go through this whole process of, okay, I want art to be a positive thing now. I don't want it to be a tool, you know, for me to, you know, use it for something negative or avoid something negative, because that makes it negative, you know? And so, you know, I, you know, the past like, you know, 5 years or so, I tried my best to separate those things. And I think that that's really actually helped me to develop my art in a better way, you know? And there's this whole notion that, you know, artists have to be miserable or like artists have to be in trouble or whatever. But I feel like personally, maybe that works for like people like Van Gogh. I don't know. Maybe Van Gogh would have been better if he wasn't so troubled. But even though he's absolutely fantastic, I love Van Gogh. I could stand in front of his paintings for hours. But it's for me personally, I feel like my art developed in a much better way, and it's easier, I think, and it's a more of a pleasant experience trying to push yourself instead of a negative thing being like, I must push myself, you know? I must push, you know what I mean? So I think that that's like how, you know, my childhood kind of developed and helped my artistic growth. But yeah.
Very cool. Quick question. So I'm playing this video that you have on your YouTube channel. Can you just tell us real quick what this is about?
Oh,
what to expect from your videos?
It's like I love this video game called Blasphemous. By the way, it's a great game. Please play it.
Okay.
It's not expensive. It's such a good game. It is such a good game. So well designed. The music is fantastic. Oh my god, the lore is out of this world. Please play it. So I was so passionate about this game that I wanted to explain to my mom the synopsis of it. But my mom is Christian, like heavily Christian. Like she has like a cross, and she's like, "Oh God," you know. But this game is about religion, but like a made-up religion, right? So I'm like explaining this game to her, and she has a very difficult time separating the fact that this is actually a game and not a real thing. So she's like, "So is this like a cult?" Like she's like asking these questions. I'm like, no, this is a video game, and you know, it's just me like explaining that, but it's just like good fun and, you know, shits and giggles and all that stuff. But anyway.
Cool. And then you put this together as sort of like a animation, and that's you, I'm guessing, and that's your mom. What is this character on the?
Oh, that's me.
Right? Oh, okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good personification. Is this an After Effects, Premiere? How are you doing this?
It's Adobe Animate, and like it's After Effects, Premiere, you know, everything that this creative suite offers.
Okay, got it. Cool.
But yeah, it's just like a mixture of a bunch of Adobe stuff. Yeah.
I love that you did this in a creative way. Lovely.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Lip?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about what's really cool to bring to the table. I mean, I come from a very small town, but probably the thing that is family related to me, because nobody's an artist, nobody cares about art. I just had nobody talk about art and nobody draw to. So whatever I did, the worse I did, the more praise I would get. And so my grandmother wanted me to draw her portrait every year because she wanted to brag to her card-playing peers. And I said I hated it because I knew it was not good. And I knew she was eventually showing to somebody who actually knew how to draw, and I would just completely make an ass of myself. So I think that was one of the part that I tried to be better at it, just to sort of be an antidote to that shame, to draw my grandma better. It never was good. Like to this day, faces are out of my repertoire. but then again, eventually it was good enough that I wouldn't feel that sort of gut wrenching pain to say, hey, this is not, don't show it around, don't do it, it's not good. So yeah, at least I have a spectrum. It starts from some neo-primitivism into weird semi-accurate realistic drawing. So it's nice to see the evolution of this grace. It's good.
Whoa.
That's it.
Yeah. By the way, so sometimes, like, I'm not from this country. I came here when I was 2 years old. But sometimes when people do ask me, "Hey, man, where are you from?" though, it can be annoying. So earlier I did ask you that question, not because of like the way you spoke, because of your name. So I didn't mean any offense earlier. But it's really cool that you're from Italy. Yeah.
I live so close to the Austrian border that we speak German too.
Oh, right.
So,
Oh, cool.
So I'm
Yeah.
like a both like mixed-tongued lizard.
Right. I just wanted to clear that out. I was just like stressing about it. Like, I hope you didn't think I was being a.
No. It's like I never associated a nationality because I think we could be beyond that. I don't care. I'm American now until I move. I'm off this island, this big island.
Great. All right.
Okay.
Actually,
go
Liv,
ahead.
I've been meaning to ask you, what's your process for the ones that are moving? Is that VR, or is that?
Just the camera projected ones, like this.
Oh, is this just camera projection?
Yeah. This is just sort of After Effects, just sliced together in a million pieces, and it's camera projected. It's just After Effects with a little bit Cinema 4D snuck into for the money bills. But VR, I've not done a little bit of a quill, but not too much animation. I use it just as a block-in tool a lot, as you guys have been doing, of course.
Is this quill?
No, this is it's funny.
So
this
3D
is
code?
3D code, and allegedly the founders of 3D code are very Christian fundamentalist. I learned after, which is funny. But now I
think they're Mormon.
Could be.
I'm guessing this is quill or grease pencil. I don't even know.
No, this is also 3D code, where I would just draw with black line. I always like to bring a little bit of a depth into it, just for the sake of making it feel more than it actually is.
Yeah, I love that. Love that.
I really am feeling behind when I'm seeing all this 3D stuff. I just got the Oculus Quest, so I do want to try quill and all this stuff.
Gravity Sketch is
Yes.
a big player in that.
That's exciting.
I mostly got it to find the closest thing to ZBrush in VR, and I was trying Medium. It wasn't quite what I wanted or was expecting, but I do. Yeah, Gravity Sketch. You said.
Yeah, it's there's no way back. Once you, it's like learning how to make how to cook meat. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna eat that raw ever again. So yes, it's
cool.
It's a revelation.
Interesting comparison.
Yeah, it's so obvious. Like, why would I ever care about constructing a perspective? It's again, I had to fill many holes, especially technical ones. So I always am so interested in finding that tool that lets me not bother about this ever again.
Same, yeah.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that was animated.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this is spine. I didn't do the animation here. I just drew up the character flat as a sort of just with ambient occlusion, and a friend of mine with Spine, which is a 2D rigging tool like that works.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it looks almost 3D, but it has that special notion of it's not quite 3D, so it has an added charm in my opinion too.
Yeah.
Kind of like Klaus, that movie came out recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. So I wanted to ask you guys, specifically in relation to your art being, I would consider it different than other people's art. or individualistic somehow, do you feel as though there have only been advantages, or that you've also had disadvantages, or have you ever been like scared because of it being the way it was? Yeah, just kind of that experience.
I think at a certain point, each artist has to ask a certain question. If you zoom out and look at the population of planet Earth, and you can kind of group people into different preferences. That's pretty clear. We could even call one big group the mainstream, but really they're just other people just like us. So I can't say that I don't enjoy the same things they do, because I do, but it's the willingness to give up wanting to please that big group to discover your own stuff. And I think I'm in the purgatory between the two. And so I think the disadvantage that I'm starting to discover is, like, if I do things that are more for me, it's a very direct and pointed sacrifice to say, okay, everybody, you're all cool and all, and I know you love Call of Duty, but I'm not going to do Call of Duty, man, or something like that. So I think the disadvantage of not playing the mainstream game is sort of giving that up. But as an artist, it's like, the question that comes with that is, well, what are you doing it for? Is it for money? Is it for attention? Is it for pleasing and getting all these people excited with what you do? It might be, and that's fine. Or is there something else that might be in the shadows waiting to, like, breathe out in the world? And so it's like, you got to choose which thing you do. Yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but that's what came to mind. I was looking at Lip's work when I was saying that, but I didn't mean to say that. I should have just had my work, so it looked like I was talking about my work.
I'm just trying to please the masses.
No.
Guilty.
Oh man, there's so much charm and character here. I think it's obvious that it's a reflection of your creative exploration. But if it was like, if there were like a bunch of people saying, well, we want more, League of Legends and Genshin Impact characters. Where are those? That's what we want. Give us the fan art. You'd be like, oh, I don't really want to do that,
I would just say, I wish I could do that.
Oh, okay.
I can't do it. That's the only thing that holds me back from it, I guess.
Really?
Oh yeah, I mean, I love so many things,
Great.
but I can't do I can't do just very few of those. So screw it.
Yeah.
I think
Anybody else?
I think it's, yeah.
I think so.
I was just thinking that's interesting that like you don't need to know everything. And I think that's something that's often a misconception. And I think like when starting out, that like, okay, I need to learn every subject. I need to know perspective and anatomy and faces and storytelling before I can start making pictures. And I think it really works the other way, where it's like, this is the thing I'm interested in. And you might have a lot of things you're interested in, but only a few of those you actually want to express visually. And then there's only a select few subjects that go into that. Then you can start learning those, and you're probably not going to do it very well at first. And then you could just incrementally improve. But yeah, it's, I think it can be overwhelming if you think that I don't know, everyone has like their own unique thing that they're communicating. And if you think of like painting as a language, then like every decision that you make is saying something. So I think what you were saying on that, it's like, if you make a picture specifically for like fan art, that it's like, at a certain point, it's like screaming, like, this only exists for Twitter likes. And it's like, how much value does that really have? Like, how much weight or attachment would you have to that as an artist?
Right.
I think that's, yeah.
If you genuinely want to do that art and you happen to share it with the world, I think that's
exactly
great.
Then I think the sincerity comes across, and then it has a lot of value because it's a sincere expression of your appreciation for whatever that thing is. But I just think I now just try and stay away from anything that doesn't feel sincere to what I actually like.
That's a very healthy way to go about it. Yeah.
I think
Sunmin, I think you're about to say something.
Yeah, I think adding to what Devin just said, and then also what Ahmed said earlier, I've had this phase. Like I think that, you know, I admire people who are very, very sure of who they are and what they will do and what they will not do. And personally, I feel like that was a struggle for me because, you know, I had this thing where even though when I graduated college, I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I still had that thing back in the back of my mind that I wanted to be liked by the masses. I wanted to be appealing. You know, I wanted to be either Disney or Pixar. You know what I mean? And I had this whole phase of like doing fan art and, you know, trying to make my style look more Disney or whatever. And, you know, as you can assume, it was very Frankenstein-y, you know, it was not this nor that. And, you know, when I was creating them, I wasn't very happy creating them. And I just decided to like listen to my gut and just like do what I like to do. And there's nothing wrong with doing fan art. It's just, I personally felt like I was doing it not for myself and not for my personal development, not for my voice. I was doing it for other people. And then when you're doing it for other people, the worst part is that if people like it, you're kind of like, you feel empty. But if people don't like it, if people don't like it, it feels terrible. It's just like, why did I
lose-lose.
You know, it's just like, it's just like a mess. And so, you know, it was a process for me. And, you know, obviously in the back of my mind, I would love for people to like what I do, but then I've kind of let that part of me go and be like, okay, how can I be true to myself? You know, what can I create that's valuable to the world that's like not, you know, adding to something that already has like a stack of things. I don't know. But
oh my God.
Yeah, I think early on it's like, oh, sorry.
I was just shocked at this image.
I was going to say, I think it can be really appealing when you're first starting, when you don't really know what you want to do. Because like a big company like Disney has a built-in identity. It's like, if I become a Disney artist, I'm like, that's who I am. And I think if you don't have that, then it's like, who am I? And that's a very difficult question. So yeah, it's definitely not the path of least resistance.
We could probably also imagine it as though each artist is on their own island, and to go onto the big island where everyone is, it's almost like you have to a contract, and that contract is the identity. Well, I'm the Disney guy, or I'm the guy that does this, or the girl that does that, or the and so it's like you almost have to sacrifice what could happen on your own island if you want to play the game of, hey, what does this big, you know, continent want? But I think there was a really good Film Courage episode. It's a YouTube channel where this, I guess, scriptwriter, director, guy was saying, like, you know, the nature of the artist is to go off into the unknown island, because that place is foggy and clouded, and really we don't have a clear answer of what's there, but it's the sense of wonder of going to that place and discovering, creating from it, and then bringing it back to the main island in a digestible way, if you so choose. My fear for a long time was being stuck on the big continent and like, you know, playing that game. I think it takes a lot of courage to step away from it and turn off everything, go to a retreat for a weekend or a cabin for a week in the woods, and just like let yourself be bored, and then see what speaks to you and express that, and there it is, that's you.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part of doing this, is that you can't copy somebody else's steps exactly. You can't just like walk the exact path that they've taken, because if you do that perfectly, you know, you're not contributing anything new. Like you're saying, you just wind up on that island. So there is some degree of exploration that every artist has to do into the unknown, and yeah, it's a really scary thing. But it's infinitely more fulfilling, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Actually, you just opened his mentorships, and I had a question specifically related to something like that. So
yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to ask. Let me find it.
Ooh, coffee jug.
Where is it?
Milk.
Sorry,
This is one of my students' work. Andrew, he's incredible.
Yeah.
I wish I could click.
Yeah, everybody should follow him and see that he's posting like daily studies. He does, I don't know, a ton of things every day. His work ethic is really insanely inspiring.
Let's pull
Okay, I
that
found the
over
question. Okay,
here.
so how do you guys communicate your advice or opinion to students or people who ask about the general idea of leaning into your taste or your voice? Like, do you think that leaning into personal voices is advisable for everyone? Do you only encourage it, or do you ever find yourself advising it, being wary or careful? Like, how do you communicate that to students, or
No,
Sunmin, also to your people at work too that you manage? Like, how do you guys communicate it to other people who are either learning or working or anything?
for me, I entirely encourage it. And even if, and especially if it's something that I'm not even into, because there's going to be somebody that's into that. And you don't always know like who is out there and what taste they have. And it doesn't make sense to like change your taste because you think that it's not going to have an audience, because you don't know. I mean, if you do something new and put it out there, the right people, I think, will find it. And yeah, I think it just kind of, if you cut that short and don't explore it, yeah, it's just, I think, because of a lack of confidence in yourself. And I don't know if that's like a path that anybody wants to go down. So I don't see any downsides to not being yourself. And I think for me, like what I try to avoid is teaching any kind of process to the point where somebody's work is going to become a copy of mine. I feel like if that happens, then that's me failing, because what I want is to help somebody achieve their specific goals. And if they don't know what those goals are yet, then explore what they are and figure it out before we talk about any of the technical stuff. So really the first thing that I do is like, there's two paths and I go down either one or the other branch. And does the student know what they want to do and just doesn't know how to do it? Or do they have all of these tools already and are so overwhelmed by knowing all of these tools that they don't even know what they want to say? So the first thing is just figuring out that, and then that kind of one thing leads to the other in terms of how to progress with teaching.
That seems like a really good investigation to have. Like, do you know where you want to go? Because you need to know where to go. I feel like people are trying. I don't know. When we were talking earlier, I thought of this really weird example, but like, you're trying to build your own car to like move forward in life. Is the car made of your ideas and your intention, or is it made of just things you know and things you know how to do? Like, it should be your intention, and you know, it should like be your car. It's like made of you, weird thing, but yeah.
At some point, I think. By the way, this dude's work is incredible. Like
Yeah,
all these daily
super good.
studies. The Craig Mullins inspiration is pretty strong with this one.
Yeah.
Great stuff. But yeah, regarding the car analogy, it's like, I think at some point you do just turn your brain off and let whatever happen, whatever happens happen, and then without trying to force it or control it as a creative, and then being I guess vulnerable with whatever that is. That's you as an artist, going the sort of woo-woo way of thinking about it.
Yeah. So how do you guys communicate that stuff to students or to people you
Right.
work with? Or
The original question was regarding. Actually, could you say it again?
yeah. Yeah. So how do you, in general, how do you communicate to your advice or your opinion about leaning into your tastes and into your voice? Like, do you always advise it, or any caution? Or
I think for me, like, because we just wrapped up class for Med's Map. We had these weekly meetings, and we discuss this stuff a lot, and there's clips of that on the channel as well. But I think especially in the learning phase, it's like lean into whatever teaches you the most. If there's no one right way to do things, so I would just suggest to a student, like, what speaks to you. And it's like, let's say we're doing form studies and we have a picture of a vase, kind of like this, or a teapot. It's like, well, maybe they're not interested in doing that the same way, or maybe they do it and they learn. But if they however prefer sculptures by Bernini, it's like, okay, we'll grab one of those and do a form study of that. That way you have at least a little bit more interest in doing it. And who knows, as they do their own paintings, a bit of that Bernini form language will show up in their own work. So, I guess try to find, like, whatever you're studying, try to relate it to something that actually speaks to you, rather than just the rote exercises of, okay, we'll draw a vase or a car or something like that.
I think for me personally, because like I have a mentee right now. maybe mentored like maybe a few people. I've taught like a class or here and there, but I have a strong aversion to people not having fun with their work. You know, so
Yes.
when you look at your mentee's work or you look at a student's work, you can usually tell the difference between a piece that they had a lot of fun with and a piece that they were just like, oh, like it's a constipation, they pushed it out, you know? So usually, you know, when they send me like a group of work, I'm like, are you actually like having fun with this? You know, like I ask them that, or, you know, what do you think would be really fun? You know, like tell me what, and at first they're like, I should do this story, or, you know, maybe I can take this story like Little Red Riding Hood and like make a portfolio. And I'm like, you don't sound like you're excited about it. Like, what do you actually
like? Are you convincing me or you?
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I think that the best way to learn the fastest and the most is like if you're having fun or not. And so with my mentee, I think, you know, at first they were, you know, kind of like doing what they had needed to do because the school system was still in there. But now we're trying to like kind of like go into a direction of like, no, like what story do you like? What do you read? Like, it doesn't have to be something that's well known. As long as you're having fun, you're passionate about it. And it's like completely different. Like the passion that goes in it, you know, the time that goes in it, it's completely 180 degrees. So that's kind of what I aim for usually. Yeah.
Makes sense. Because I mean, if you were commissioned to do this kind of video about a game you weren't passionate about, it wouldn't be so fun, right? That's such a great way to put it. Like, find something that you actually are excited about. Because I think that the scary part of that is it requires a bit of vulnerability to admit what it is that you like, and if that thing isn't already popular or you know, the preferred style du jour on the front page of ArtStation, you kind of feeling a bit of shame with that. And so it's like the vulnerability to reach in and pull that out and make that your voice requires courage.
And I think that as long as the mentee or your student has the right foundation to be able to, you know, modify their style, like if needed. So if, like, for example, like, because I work in animation, you know, if this person wants to make sure that they are applicable to other shows and other movies, if you have a good foundation, you'll be able to adjust to that. It's just that it's not really about, like, when you're creating this portfolio to work in animation, you're not creating this portfolio to be like, this is my style and you shall take me in and I will work in my style. Like, that's not it's not this like announcement, you know. It's more like, you know, the style part is like you having fun, but then you also want to show your foundation and show that you can work in a studio setting, and that's just kind of like the blanket on top of it. And just kind of like communicating that where, you know, when you're designing, like, you're not designing without intention. You make sure you're designing with intention, because if you know that there's an intention there, then you can modify that intention to a different style or a different like form, like a film language or whatever, like theme or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that in combination, I feel like is pretty helpful. But yeah, that's just me.
Yeah. Lip, is there, when you have students or anything you want to say on that?
Well, it's when I was doing still CGMA, it was always the same, because doing every term, I could totally see everyone makes the same mistakes. So it was really, really clear what to do. But for my Patreon, I always try to ask myself, like, this is the main assessments. Which category are you? Are you somebody who's stuck in technique, which will has struggles with ideas, and that's why he's just grinding the technique, the studies, and people get really deep into that hole where I can't do only I can do it in studies, and it bothers people. Or are you just somebody who has just a ton of ideas but just can't get one out because you just can't draw like nothing? So, and normally people fall into a mix of the two, myself included, where I just have some ideas and some technique, but there are two paths you can help them with. One is, hey, can you try to think about something without drawing for a second? Just write it down. You will come up with something cool, and then I can help you to make this happen. Because my biggest problem over the last decade was always to compromise because of technical faults, sort of technical shortcomings. And you don't have to compromise anymore the content because we cannot pull off the form. That just circles back to the fact that I love to use every technique in the book just to shorten that distance between what I want and what I can do at any specific time. So, long story short, I always try to listen. Which part are you? And then I try to help or give my experience into that specifically. So hey,
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Quick question
Something-
on Patreon. Real quick, sorry. How many slots did you have? Do you have any opening mentorship spots? Because people do ask me a lot if there are any mentorships.
I haven't not open. I think it's full. The sort of the one-on-one. I always scared that if I can take too many, I will just be just bathing in money and not care about people. Which I'm joking, of course. But no, I cannot bring the service I promised myself I would give people.
Right.
So but there's a certain point where you have to care less about your students because there's just too many. So it's around 8, and that's a good number where I can know exactly what they're doing at every specific time, and then circle back with actually an informed opinion, not just reacting on what they're doing in a specific time. So the Patreon is not a monetary asset for me, thank God, like because of my day job. So I want here to have a place where I can actually make a difference to people.
Right on. Thanks. And Devin,
And help myself
Oh.
too.
I think I was saying something that I asked students in the beginning as a way to, I think, help them figure out what they want to say is what would you be doing if you already had the skills that you wanted? Like what kind of pictures would you be making? I think often we don't think about that and get so bogged down in what do I know about how to communicate visually? What can I already do? But yeah, I think, there's a lot of ideas that we discount just out of hand without even thinking about them consciously, just because it's that would never work. Nobody would like that, or I can't do it. So I think it's just a way to kind of brainstorm. Why do I even want to do this in the first place? What am I excited about making? And if I could do everything, what would that be? If the technical stuff wasn't a hurdle.
Those are such good points, guys. And in thinking, I find teaching is such a difficult, its own beast. And I get asked to teach, and if I have advice, and I find it so difficult because I don't want to tell anybody the wrong thing and then somehow feel like I ruined their life or I gave them the wrong information or something like that. But I'm going to listen to what you guys said again, and I'm going to absorb it because I really enjoyed hearing that. On the aspect of not knowing if you're giving someone the wrong advice or how to give it. Actually, recently I was talking to Leroy Van Vliet, an artist that I really admire too. We're friends and it's awesome. So I was asking him about we had this kind of, I don't know, realization, I guess, that if you look at the 5 of us, we're doing something that we enjoy doing, and it might not be perfect, but it's part of us, and it's kind of obvious that who we are is in our work. But when you look at other people who also have individualistic art styles, but it's not working for them, and they're frustrated, and they're like, when's it going to start working? Is it about luck, or some kind of adaptability that we don't realize we have? You know what I mean? What's positioning us differently than those people who are not having it work out? And just what are your thoughts on that? Is it luck? Is it timing? Is it, I don't know.
When you say not working, do you mean career-wise?
I suppose so, because I know that there's people who are probably feeling yeah, I have a voice, I know what I like, and I'm doing it, but no one's asking me for work, and I don't get replies when I send them out.
Yeah, I mean, that's there's only so many things that are in your control, and that's what your work is. And there's so much about commercial stuff that it's, it's what is currently in fashion? What do people want? and if you're doing something very individualistic, you have to put your work out there to be very visible so that those people who want that specific thing are seeing
Yeah.
it. So I think it takes a long time, and it takes a lot of perseverance and being able to withstand kind of the lack of control that you have over that, again, over like a very long period of time. So yeah, that's its own very separate skill.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like where we've landed has a lot to do with luck? Like if you look at yourself personally, or is it like, does it totally make sense?
It's a part of sort of finding your voice, which I'm all for. Like we all here to sort of, but at the end of the day, if we talk about work and getting jobs, just understand that you are providing a product for a complex system that needs specific assets. And,
you're solving a problem.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you will get job if you do this. Then you can all be the amazing artist you want to be. But those are two different things. So you can be mega successful in your personal art, but just not offer anything somebody else can take and run with some exceptions. So yeah, I always try to remind myself, I'm here to help making something bigger than myself and my art. Because if that's not the case, I will be a fine artist and be happy this way too. But since I'm not, I'll see this way.
Yeah, I agree with Lip, and especially because I come from animation, I think there's very specific things that you can do to get a job in animation. There are very specific requirements when you're creating designs and assets and whatnot. And if you get an art of book, you'll know that there are like there's very specific things that we do, and if you want a job, like you just like have to analyze what it is that this job needs. Like, for example, I've said you can be an amazing artist, but it might not show your abilities to do, like, let's say, designing sets and stuff like that. Can you design a set and make sure that it's like cohesive in terms of the style? Can you make sure that it's it all fits in? Is it showing a story? Is it showing the personality of the character that lives there? Like stuff like that. Or can you do textures? Can you do call out, like stuff like that? And if you have a job in mind that you really want to do, just make sure that you're analyzing what steps they're taking in order to do the job.
What do you have to fulfill?
Yeah. And I think that luck kind of will follow once you are prepared for it. I feel like luck and being prepared kind of works together in certain ways, where you can't just like not have any work or, a portfolio. Then be like, struck by lightning, and all of a sudden, you get a job at a studio. You have to be prepared and be lucky at the same time. I think I feel very lucky with a lot of things that I've gotten in terms of like my career or like offers that I've gotten. But I still had a portfolio to send out to, and by the way, I've been rejected like tons and tons of times, like so many times I can't even count. But I think maybe in those two combinations might help you to get a job that you're looking for. But that's just kind of like my thought on it.
I recently had a pretty good podcast with Christian Nee, who's one of the people behind the Proco channel and setting up chats with that. He did this thing where he just upended his world and got a van, did the van life thing where he, left California and drove across the country. And he does podcasts called the Sketchy Van Podcast. And he stopped here in Ohio and we had one. But one of the things was the $1 billion question. Like, if you had $1 billion, what would you do? Would you still be trying to get that job? And that when I hear this question about luck and finding it and making it, I just wish everybody had $1 billion so that we'd be living in a post-scarcity society where you're just doing things for you or to have fun or creative. But like, I see so many people slaving away, like, please give me the map to get a job. I need the exact thing. I need a job now. And it's so, because I've been there. I get it. It's not a good feeling to have. But it does like put you in a position of trying to serve something other than the creative spirit. But at the same time, it's like, luck is part of the equation, and it's like there's going to be opportunities that open and close, and people are going to be scrolling on Instagram or ArtStation. Maybe when they refresh the page, your thing is there, or maybe it's not there, or maybe the connections you make might lead you into a position that you're looking for. But it's like, be ready, as they were saying, if that does happen, like have something there. And I'd say luck was definitely part of the equation of my journey. I think one of the luckiest things I got to experience was when I applied for Art Center. Not many people were applying. There were a lot of applicants, but it was back in 2008 when concept art and entertainment design and illustration wasn't really the mainstream of what everyone was applying for. Now I'm sure they're getting thousands of applicants. Back then it was maybe like 50 or 60. So that's luck, right? And because of the small pool, I got in and it just worked out. And yeah, just where you are, timing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm reminded of a part in I think it was like the art of Half-Life 2 when they're talking about making the first Half-Life. And the main concept artist on that game, what happened was this like, hey, my cousin can draw. And like, okay, now that person is like senior concept artist at Valve or whatever. And it's like, yeah, it was a very different time. And I think it's a lot more competitive now. But yeah, it's funny how different it was. And I think that's a very common story, probably a lot of game studios. Like my cousin likes to draw, he could do this. And I think there are things you can do to like speed it up, to like more quickly get an entry-level job somewhere. But I think if you focus on that, if you focus on like making a portfolio that an art director is going to see and say, okay, they can do this entry-level job, I think that's going to get you there faster, but you hit a wall. And I think if you take the time to learn how to communicate, which is a much longer process and is much more open-ended, then I think you have a lot more opportunities career-wise and personally. But it is a much longer road, and I think it's a very personal choice in how you take that road. I mean, do you get a job outside of art to be able to sustain yourself while you're looking? I don't know. I think it's different for every circumstance, but that's how I see it.
Right. I was going to say something.
You forgot.
Well, I was about to say it, then I read a comment. Someone said, what about not having the money to go to your Art Center goal? What's the tip for that? So I think like to kind of piggyback on that idea is like, at least for me, my goal was never to get a job or make money. I just had an obsession with learning art. And I think the paradox with that is my obsession with wanting to learn art and just enjoy it and be good at it put me at a skill level that was hireable, right? And I think maybe if people started shifting a little bit more back towards having fun with art, you end up learning better, faster, more enjoyable. The irony is like when you stop chasing the thing, it ends up finding its way to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also like in terms of the information for how to be an artist and technically and all sorts of things, like it's out there and it's either free or extremely cheap. So the information is not locked behind walls. You don't need to go to a school. I think it can potentially give you connections that make things go faster, but that's not even a guarantee. And you're spending a ton of money and you might be in debt. So it's like school is not a magic bullet for like how to do this. The information is there. Really the thing that I think you need to focus on is like, what am I interested in? Who am I? What do I want to say? And then things follow through exploring that path.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, sorry, real quick.
No, go ahead.
If you are interested, self-plug here, I do have a digital painting course structured in a 14-week Art Center style where it kind of walks you through all the things that I believe you need to learn how to paint. So go ahead and check that out. All right, back to you guys.
If
we're plugging, I've got books too.
I've got wrote in the chat.
I've got two books called Creative Fundamentals, where similar thing. It's basically like over kind of the decade of trying to figure out how to do this. I basically wrote down everything that I learned that I wish I knew. And I just released a video tutorial called Advanced Basics, which expands on a lot of that stuff.
Really good. Yeah.
And it talks a lot about like the mental side of things too.
That's great. I might have to get it myself.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to
awesome
get back
that-
into learning.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you.
It's awesome that you guys are making educational content because I prefer when people who are really good and who have a voice make content. I don't want to throw any shade on people who like are starting out or something, but I really do like when, you know, it's like
Quick
individualistic and good.
quick tip for people who want to start a YouTube channel. There's this assumption that if you start a YouTube channel, you have to teach stuff. You don't. You don't have to teach. It's like, well, I got to make tutorials because that's what art videos are, right? No, it could just be a documentation of your process and where you are. Treat it like a journal entry. Like, hey, here's what I'm trying to learn. If you guys want to do this with me, join me. And oh, here's where I failed. Like, that's what people like to join the train for. You don't always have to come from this position of like educator unless you have the credentials for it. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I completely agree. Actually, when I know we talked about that in the past, and your point of view that it can just be a documentation of your journey, I find that super liberating and encouraging because it's just like with art. Like if you thought that the piece, the next piece you had to make had to show just how freaking competent you are, like that would suck. It would be a pain to make, whatever. So imagine like that's what making videos feels like, then it's a pain. And that's actually something that held me back from making a lot of videos. And whenever I do make a video, people are like, oh, you have an infectious energy, and I like the way you explained that. And I'm like, that's such a nice thing to be told. But then I just don't make content. So I don't know. It's like people tell you something nice, you know, and they want to see more of you because they just like you as a human being. But then you're like, no, I'm gonna not do that because it won't be great or whatever. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Med, for making it seem more approachable and just like a journey. Journaling journey. I don't know.
Document. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do what I can, my friend.
Yeah, I really like that. It's super liberating, and anything that's liberating is good, right? Especially with art and yeah. I would say. So I just have a kind of a different point to ask you guys about that I find pretty. I guess it's funny and interesting and kind of like psychologically interesting to me. Is that I have this theory lately that. Sorry if I'm like reading and I go into reading mode, but I want the question to come across well. So I have this theory lately that more accomplished artists with a personal flair to their work who haven't tried to fit into a particular style or company are a bit more on the narcissistic side of the spectrum, and that artists who are more mindful of fitting in might be more selfless or altruistic. I think it's because a certain percent of narcissism is required for a person to believe their taste is even worth pursuing and expressing, and stubbornly follow through on that feeling. Do you think there's anything to this, or do you disagree?
I think there's some truth to that.
I think so too.
So, if I could just jump in that, I've researched and read a lot about narcissism as a personality disorder, having dealt with that in my life, you know, externally, also from myself, addressing my own narcissistic tendencies and you know, disregard for other people's, I guess, emotional states for a long time, and just living in myself as a sort of survival mechanism. And I think as you develop empathy for your own self, which, you know, paradoxically makes you have empathy for others, you start to move away from that. But having said that, I was very much driven for a long time with the mindset that I can do everything in a better way than everyone else. Right. So I you know, that's, you know, on one hand, that's a very narcissistic thing to say, completely disregarding and ignoring everything that might be actually helpful, but it did propel me to get to a point where I can do things. But now I'm sort of backpedaling, saying I actually don't know everything, which is why I'm like looking at all these courses and not courses, but like you know, what Devin has and Lip, and it's like I could learn so much from everyone. But in the past, the narcissism that I had kept me from opening my mind to that possibility. Regarding people who flourish with their own style, maybe it's like maybe it's a healthy narcissism, not necessarily a destructive.
Yeah, it's not
thing.
only a negative term, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, I think it's a balance because you can't be so open to everything that there's so many influences professionally and teaching, like that you'll just kind of be a paper bag in the wind. But you also can't be so into yourself that you think that everything you do on the first try is perfect and you will never grow. So having like that beginner's mind, but also like having a little bit of like, I feel like the ability to say like F you to somebody, that like, if you don't agree with something, like, no, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And I don't care what you think. I think that's a very important skill to have. And it doesn't necessarily have to become, I don't know, negative or,
right. I don't think setting boundaries is narcissism. You know?
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
I think Lip has something to say.
Did I? Oh, I'm not sure. I wasn't saying anything, but I will just say I navigated the problem just by, I had this opinion, like I didn't study this. I don't have to be good. So if I can be part of the party and I don't have zero pressure because nobody expected me to do good. So if it didn't suck, I won every time. So it was a good. I just navigated the zero expectation train, for better for worse. I don't know, but I loved it. So I could always sort of brag of not knowing anything and still.
I think you did great.
It's a good place to be. Nobody held you to any standard because I didn't study this. What, get out of my face? Like, I don't know.
Sure. Sunmin,
I think to add to the whole narcissism comment, I think that I don't know much about like clinical narcissism and like how that works, but I do think that the narcissism is mainly used as a negative term, but I think that it actually works both ways. But maybe we can call it like confidence or something like that, where, especially as a studio artist, it's actually healthier for you to maintain your own voice for your own personal work, because when you're working in a studio and you're kind of trying to match to a certain style that's like really not your forte, like let's say, or it's not really your taste, you can start losing yourself. It really you start losing yourself, and then if you lose yourself, you kind of forget what made you happy in the first place. You forget why you started this in the first place. And so you start getting into this like deep, dark artist depression where you just start losing yourself. You don't know who you are anymore. And that's why I think keeping that personal style and just kind of reminding yourself why you started this and keeping that light just keep on fire and just like to keep it going, it's actually really healthy. And I think that it just works like just as personally, like in your life as well. Like just you don't have to tell people this is the way that I like things and you will follow me as well. That's like bad narcissism. But it's more like, I like things a certain way. I like it like this. I like my home in a certain way. I like to make my bed when I wake up or whatever, right? But those are just kind of like reminders in your personal life so that you can go about the rest of your day with interacting with other people, working with other people, or doing things so that you can maintain this healthy mentality, Yeah. So, I would say like it's kind of like a positive narcissism / more like confidence and all that.
Yeah. I think it's because like oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you said more words than I did. Go ahead.
What?
You said more words than I did. You get the...
Okay. You said more words than I did. That's such a funny thought. Okay. Because recently I was thinking about how there, like just evolutionarily, there's just the right amount to have where you're a self-preserving human being, right? Instead of just like everything is more worthy than me. My ideas are worth nothing. Like that's not a good place to be in. And if you didn't have an inkling of narcissism, you wouldn't even eat to keep yourself alive, like just all these things. And so I think it's interesting, just like you guys are saying, that right balance where you have empathy, you can connect to people, you're not overstepping things, but you're also thinking that who you are, you're confident and self-loving enough to take up the space that you take up in the world, right? And not feel guilty for it. And
and I think that's like self-compassion.
Yes.
I think setting boundaries comes from self-compassion, and if you don't have that, then there's no reason to set boundaries, because there's a lack of respect for yourself. And I think it's worth noting that the industry often doesn't. It's not in the industry's interest to instill self-compassion in artists, because then they make worse employees, and that's worth keeping in mind if you work in a studio, because it can happen before you know it, that the influences there can affect your mindset and how you view yourself and what your role as an artist is. So that's just, I think it's just something to always be aware of.
So
thank you for bringing that up. Actually, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
I think I have connection issues. Sorry.
Lichtel said narcissism does not equal self-love, and I think that's a good way to put it, which is what Devin and you just and someone just said. And it's like, I don't know if, because like the way I think of narcissism is like complete lack of empathy for others. But I think realizing your own self-worth and value as a person and self-compassion is just that. I think it becomes unfortunate if people who do that are going to be gaslit, saying, okay, you're just being arrogant. Oh, you think you know everything. And then because of that, that person shrinks. And that's an abusive relationship. So I think maybe, healthy narcissism is a way to put it, or just self-compassion.
I just, on the point of like the industry, I've seen situations where some gaslighting was happening, like you were supposed to feel guilty because you didn't do something, or because you didn't give enough time for work, or because you had a birthday that weekend, or something like that. And I've had to like stand up for other people who were not self-compassionate and boundary setting enough, to say, and either send them a message personally or in the work call or whatever, say something, for that person to be signaled that they shouldn't take that guilt upon themselves that someone tried to give them, because that's bullshit. And you aren't a machine. You aren't like a subordinate to this thing. You're trying to live your life. The conditions should be correct. It shouldn't be an abusive relationship.
It's unfortunate when certain individuals who will build a castle around themselves, sort of a self-delusion as a result of their own, I guess, low self-worth, but they have a delusion that they're above everyone, and so they try to decree this thing that everyone is supposed to abide by, and if you don't, that's when they gaslight you and say.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's they're both defense mechanisms. Like if everything you do is perfect, then either everything you do is perfect, or you talk down about yourself before anyone else can do it first. Exactly. So I think both things are really expressions of the same kind of insecurity about not having value.
On the topic of like insecurity and stuff like that, I guess maybe it shows something about me and my shadow, or my insecurity on my own. But whenever I hear people talk about or ask questions, like specifically during Lightbox and other events or anything like that, I always hear people ask, like, one of the first questions that gets asked by students is like, how can I adapt myself to this studio? Or how do I get into this
riot games
thing? And I just instantly get annoyed. I instantly get annoyed, and I think, like, don't you want to be yourself, or don't you want to like approach that more from the angle we talked about before, where it's about the capacity to do something, but I'm not losing myself, more like that. And do you guys have any similar thoughts? Like, do you get annoyed, or am I just like some privileged person who gets to do what I want
understand? I understand the impulse, because also there is a reality that, like, if you target Riot style, there's a better chance to get a job at Riot.
Yeah.
But again, that's very short-term thinking, because I think it really most often leads to a wall. And once you're working there for however long, you realize, like, is this really what I like? Then that's all you can do. And it just takes more energy and time to kind of dig yourself out of that than in the first place, kind of just being true to yourself. But I totally understand why somebody would want to do that, because again, there's so much apparent short-term benefit to it in terms of gaining an identity that you could tell other people, and like, you know, your parents can brag, oh, they work for this so-and-so company. It's very alluring. So yeah, I think that's why I try not to get annoyed about that stuff, because it's really, I think, relatable. And there's so much pressure. Like, I think it's understandable to want shortcuts.
To add to that, you know, I also get annoyed. I'll be quick. I get annoyed by that all the time. It's like Riot, Blizzard, Disney, anime. Like, it's just the main things that come up. At the same time, I think it's our job to be careful not to gaslight the people who want to do that and let them pursue that, you know, because maybe we think there's some kind of greater thing on this island. You have to be yourself, and if you're not yourself, then you're less. Well, maybe themself is the Riot stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So we have to let that. Yeah.
Just to add to
it's really just about doing what you want to do.
Yeah, and just to add to this whole conversation, like, I think I understand the kind of desperation to want to fit into a studio, because like, I'm a foreigner in this country, like in America, so, you know, I want to make sure that I get a job and I get a visa. You know what I mean? That's like my number one goal. Like,
Me too.
That's a really good point. That's why I recognize, like, there must be a privilege, like, loaded with my annoyance, you know, like, oh, I get to be annoyed because things worked out for me. But what if they just aren't for someone else?
Yeah, and for me, and like personally, because I was so desperate to stay in the States, and it's changed, because, you know, COVID and all that stuff actually allowed for people, you know, to work remotely, and then that allows for people, foreign artists, to, you know, get into the studio pipeline very, very seamlessly. And, you know, we've been, you know, having a really good time in hiring artists that are not even from America. Like, half of our artists, I think, are not from America. But I do understand that desperation of wanting to fit into a studio pipeline. But again, I think, you know, and the thing that Ahmed was saying that I relate to also is that once you kind of like start trying to fit yourself into that pipeline, you're probably going to get to a place where you kind of realize that what you're doing is kind of a copy of what you think needs to be done to fit into a studio. And then you realize, okay, what can I do from here on out to try to like put myself, like, you know, so I stand out a little bit more. Like, I think there's like this whole process that you go through, kind of like, you know, like the steps of like depression, or steps of, or whatever, but like positive, you know what I mean? So there's all these steps that you take, and then you kind of realize things, and then you learn, and then you improve your skills, or you find your route. Like, oh, I don't have to be great at painting, drawing, and designing, and all this stuff. Like, I can have my strengths, you know, and what is that strength? Can I make it so that it stands out? Is it still kind of appealing to this specific studio? You know, and then all these questions start popping up, and then I think that you kind of find your way into figuring out how to fit into a studio, I feel. But what does everybody else think? I don't know.
I think you get good at what you do.
Yeah. I get zero annoyed by that question, because it's, since we are, and that might end up de-romanticizing it a little bit for everybody, but we are not printer, we are thinker, and being able to analytically summarize what it takes to get to that place. It's like an expression of just smart thinking. It's such a vital tool to understand the building blocks that makes this. So I applaud if somebody, hey, is this our goal? You want this? Let's break it down. And then once you're there, you can think about what you would do next. But this is just an expression of being able to understand what we're doing here. It's not like I want to flow in with my art carpet in. No. This is also just and I might be tinted of how he's having worked within a system, or sort of relied on teamwork. Is if you want to work at the of the French embassy. You gotta be able to speak French, full stop. We don't need any other language because that's what you want, right? So I get zero annoyed. I might not want it for myself, or even might think that's not a good idea, but it's a worthwhile endeavor to break down and be really smart about what it means to.
Yeah.
Amen.
Thanks, guys. I won't get annoyed anymore because now I'm more informed by your opinions.
So
Appreciate
real
it.
quick, we are 2 hours in. I think we might have time for one more short question, and then we can wrap it up. If that's
Oh,
okay with you, Iris.
no.
Unless you want to go
Okay.
5 hours or something.
No, but like whoever wants to stick around for like half an hour more, would that be
we'll
okay?
say 30
or-
minutes is fine.
Okay. Cool. Okay, let me look through the questions for a sec. You guys like hang out a bit, and I'll see which ones are like 2 best ones or something.
This is us hanging out.
Yeah. Also, thanks so much for going through everybody's work. Like, it makes the presentation much more visually engaging than my version was.
That's
Yeah,
all
thanks, man, for.
Thank you so much. I really
good. Yeah, no
appreciate it.
problem. Oops.
Oh, no, don't do
Okay,
that.
there's, yeah, there we go.
Thank you. All right, one sec.
Gabo. Kofi was in chat as well, too. Last year, Lightbox.
Yeah, I miss Lightbox. I just had it once in person. It was such a good time. And I traveled far to come here, and I'm here. It's not going on. It feels ridiculous. So injustice. Life's not
2022.
fair. Yeah.
This dynamic 3-point perspective really pulls you in on this one.
In the back it says Rome thief. It's just that the graffiti you see a lot in Italy, when because Rome is a capital, it sort of steals all your money. And that's what it happens a lot.
Ladrona. That's like Spanish, ladrón.
That's true.
Okay, I have one question. That's cool. And well, I think one more after that. So, is there something either visually or not even connected to art at all that people who look at your art have no idea that you would like or enjoy, and that, I don't know, you want to share or
Yeah.
says something about you?
Tool. I don't think any of my art looks Tool or psychedelic at all. It's just, I love metal. I love prog rock.
Do you want to explore that in your art or no?
Yeah, soon. I got some ideas. That's the first thing. I might come up with something else after everyone else talks.
I like sauna. I like sauna a lot, but people know that.
People
You
know.
like what?
But like Finnish sauna, I'm very sort of I call myself a sauna evangelist, just because I think for especially for high stress jobs, it's the best way to. And I
Like
might
steam?
have, yeah, steam bath is fine,
Okay.
but also just classic Finnish sauna is great. Just because I grew up with it, so for me it's like a no-brainer. And my American experience has been that if you're even mentioning it in a casual dialogue, people look at you as like in a kind of, what kind of perv are you? Are you talking about getting naked? It's like, yeah, because I mean that might go too far, and you guys can cut it out. But somebody explain it to me what it sounds like if I talk about sauna with people I've just met. So like I would just say something, yeah, let's go sauna sometimes, and they would just look at me and stare as if I had asked them, look, I'm gonna have a shower. You want to join me? So yes, I get it. I'm still not. I feel it's two different things. Yet I've been educated on the subject.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, for better, for worse.
Devin, Sunmin, anything nobody knows?
I can't think of anything.
Really nothing.
I don't know.
That's okay.
Like some weird food.
Even like a vision, like a style of art that you like to see but you don't like to do. Anything at all. It can be simple.
So the question is like something that I do that nobody knows that like.
No, not so weird and stupid.
Or anything you're into.
No, it's more like is there a visual art style that you like to see that no one would guess by your style, or something you like to do in your life, or an interest you have? Like,
Oh, yeah.
Something you're not expressing in your art, you know?
I don't think I do it very often, but I really like. I had a phase where I really liked like 3D modeling with sci-fi stuff, and that was like all I was looking at for a while, and just wasn't in my work at all.
Okay.
I think it's because it's just like it's so far from what I do and what I'm naturally and like what I'm naturally good at that I think I can appreciate it a lot. So rather than like look at, I don't know, expressive oil painters or something, I like to look at things that are like purely 3D and like blueprints and like designs of things. But yeah, it's not all the time, but I did have like a phase of that.
I think I don't know which one to choose. I think journaling helps a lot. For me,
Yeah.
like I do a lot of journaling of just like spewing out just things that are in my mind, because I think a lot of the times the things that are in your mind block you from being creative, or things in your mind, the negativity blocks you from, letting your creative child kind of play, you know what I mean? So I try to like journal every day when I wake up. And that's just one thing that I think I do that nobody knows that I do, or that helps me with
Wow.
my art, whatever. Yeah.
Awesome.
Journaling's great. Totally. Same. I
Yeah.
actually, my sketchbook is mostly like me trying to sort out my thoughts so they don't get stuck as a hamster wheel, in a
Nice.
hamster wheel in my mind. It's
Awesome.
cool.
Thanks
I
for
hear
sharing that, guys.
There was a question from the chat. I think the name is Masae Seki. Do you know her, Irish?
Hey, Masai.
It's not sure if this has been asked, but when
wait,
you
wait,
feel
wait, wait. Make the joke like, what say, Masai?
oh my god, Tomodachi. When you feel like you're losing your self-artistic voice, have you ever taken a break from your art or your job? I'd love to hear anyone's experience. Absolutely. Walking away from art and the identity of it is really helpful. Let's actually pull up Masai's work. Masai.
Yeah,
if anyone
thoughts
wants to
on
answer.
walking away?
Or taking a break from your art.
I actually take a break from my art all the time. It's
Same.
just, I just like, I think it's actually really important that you're not making art for the sake of creating mileage, like all the time. Like you should be creating mileage if you're happy to create mileage. I think that like everything I've said just kind of like is surrounded by this like one thing of make sure you're having fun. If you're burnt out and you feel like you're forcing yourself to just push out work, you're actually probably damaging yourself more than anything. And actually, like I'm very protective of my artist child, whatever that's called or whatever kooky thing it is. But it's like if you're starting to abuse your artist child and being like, why aren't you drawing more? You know, like that's where you just have to be like, you're being abusive to your kid, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so take a break, you know, go out, hold hands and go out to the park, get some cotton candy, you know, go to a bookstore, go to a plant store or nursery, just do something fun and like take a break. Maybe you depleted all of your inspiration. Go on a trip and be like, I just need to be inspired, you know? I think taking a break is really important.
I like that.
Just what you mentioned, I think it's really important to not be self-destructive in how you practice. Because again, I think that's like a defense mechanism. Like if I'm really hard on myself, then I don't know, it makes rejection easier or something. But I think again, the whole point of painting and the way to really have fulfillment in this is to be sincere in what you're communicating. And if you're like scared of yourself and your own reactions to the work that you make, it's really impossible to be open to your own ideas. So I think that's part of. And also I think you get good at what you do. And like and it's a balance because you can't always be like expressing these unique things. So there has to be some kind of just like, some of it is just mileage, some of it is just practice. So I try and keep a balance of like, and be mindful of like, okay, what I'm doing here is just to kind of keep my skills okay for when inspiration strikes so that I'm not out of practice for when an idea happens. But then you can't like be so hard on yourself that everything has to be perfect and everything has to be great so that you don't burn out. So it really is something you have to take stock of like every day, I think, and be mindful of it.
Yeah. That there's one thing I may add to that I always try to make it as convenient as possible to me, and that's the exact reason why I don't mess with wash. I never touch oil. I hate anything that makes dirty or stinky liquids around my. And not because I think they're great, and I like the idea of being that rock star that just paints with real paints. But because it's tedious, I might end up not doing it. So I go the way of least resistance as long as I get to learn something.
Yeah.
So that's what I do, and it's good.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and if somebody is like, hey, I really like to post things because people like my stuff, I said, please use that power. Be don't try to hack your monkey brain. Embrace it. If the likes help you, go with the likes. If that's totally fine, because it's in the end of the day, if it's not convenient, we'll. If you have to fight it every time, you are not going to do it.
Absolutely. To add to that, I know I mentioned this in the other stream. Find a way to realize that art isn't everything. Granted, it might be a means to, pay the bills and stuff, but being able to separate yourself from the identity of artist and be a human for a little bit is very valuable. For example, I think I heard someone who either heard or saw a talk by Craig Mullins say how when he does work like art and paintings and concepts, like he treats it like a job, as though he's a plumber going to work to do the thing, using the tools he has, do the thing, and then leave. Like my understanding is he leaves that at the office. And so it's probably a healthy way to realize that you don't have to make art everything you do 24/7 and think about it all the time.
100%. Very balanced and healthy mindsets, guys, I think. So I had 2 questions left. One is a quick yes and no, and you cannot elaborate. And the next one is a little more elaborate. So
Sure.
Imagine a visual art style that you have little to no interest in, but one that it's not like too different. You could do it if you had to. Now imagine you had to adapt to that in order to continue working in art. Would you be willing to do it? Yes or no?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, hell yeah.
It's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I don't know if
I can do. I can do better.
All right.
So wait, you wait. I can't elaborate. So I guess that's it.
I said you can, but now I'm interested.
Like anime or something, or like.
Well, like you can't be an artist unless you do this.
Yeah, that's it. It's just like a weird world where like this
So it has
way
to be
or the
like an
highway.
accountant or something.
Yeah. It's like literally you do this style or you do something else. No more.
Yeah. So you're saying like it's close enough where it's like doing something completely different would be such a sea change.
Okay, but
why not just?
You have little to no interest in it. It's not close enough, like, and you like it. You
But
have
how much
little.
money do I get? How much money?
That's the important question.
Because I'm down to anything really. If the
Oh
money's
my
good.
God.
No, I'm
Basically, what you're asking is like, would you sacrifice everything you know to do something else?
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends. You
Okay.
have to- yeah. Okay. Next question.
Yeah, I'm changing to it depends also.
How convenient. Okay. Okay. The question I had, I'll ask it, but first, Gabriel is in chat and has a question that someone else wants to ask too. So 2 more, please. Okay. So one,
Almost.
Gabriel. Okay, I'll read it. He says, I'm currently stuck in a loop of pushing to level up, but then shift my goals upward immediately. So I never feel successful for more than 60 seconds, sorry, a little longer. Any tips on navigating this issue? Wait, first, before you guys answer, I had the same thing, Gabriel, for years when I was learning. And try to like cool your jets a little so you feel successful for a little longer than 60 seconds. But to be very honest, I do think that being super critical has benefits to it and it will take you far, but you have to be critical of literally just the art, the piece, your skill and ability, not yourself as a person and your value and whatever. It all just has to be like a very realistic notion of like, do I have, does this piece have good composition? Does it have good values? Does it have good this? Yes or no? And then feel accomplished or not, but know that like you have what it takes and the judgment to take it to where it needs to be. And you're just building that every day. So don't feel insecure, feel empowered to move forward. So that's my answer. But yeah.
I would agree with that, and also to just say, stop trying to be successful and just do the work anyway. And it might sound counterintuitive because it's like, well, you have to evaluate whether the piece worked or whether it lived up to the thing. But I think you should give yourself time and space to not evaluate so harshly and just do the work and evaluate maybe once a week and like measure it against something. But because ironically, that's what helps you get better and succeed more, is to do the work.
Yeah.
I think to add to that, like I totally relate to this because I'm extremely self-critical to the point where it's almost like debilitating that I don't want to do anything, you know? Like I understand that comment like so well, and the way that that's helped me is really to make sure that every time you're making a piece, like think about the things that you've done better than the last time. The last time, like just yesterday, like if you created a piece yesterday and you created a piece today, like even the smallest things, like, oh, I actually sat down and focused for longer to create this piece, or, you know, I actually like looked up how to do this thing that I didn't know how to do before and I implemented it here. Or design wise, it feels a little bit better than last time. I put more care into that. Like just those small things and like acknowledging your forward momentum instead of focusing solely on just the result and what it looks like at the end. I think that has really helped. I think also, like I mentioned this yesterday, but like reading about Stoicism has helped me a lot to make sure that I'm not making sure I'm stopping myself from putting everything outside of myself and making sure that I'm just really focusing on what I'm doing and what I'm doing every single day. But that's just kind of like helped me. So I'm hopefully that'll help you too.
I agree with what you're saying totally. And not only does that feel better to focus on the little things that you are doing good, and that helps you have the like fuel, I guess, to continue, but it's actually even neurologically, like neuroscientists say that that's the way to improve behavior, is to just like where the relationship that you have with the cycle of improvement and the cycle of like focusing on something and working on it and getting better, having that in itself be healthy and like you know, just kind of the way you said it is the right structure. It's the best possible one to keep you doing it, to move forward, and it's like more sustainable.
Also, like once you get more skills, that's not going to make you like yourself more. Like that doesn't happen. Like
it's a cycle.
So if you're expecting like to feel better about yourself as your skills improve, that
no,
that's not
no
the way to.
It gets worse. Way worse. I was so much happier.
There was
a burden.
What's it called? A TikTok of this trying to, a few months back, where it's like they record themselves. I don't know how to use TikTok, but it's like imagine yourself meeting your younger version of yourself, and imagine that version of yourself running up to you and giving you a hug, and it's like that's exactly what you got to do when it comes to self-acceptance, because like you're accepting that little kid of who you were. I mean, if you can do that, then you no longer try to use art or music or money to define how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, and then it'll become an expression of like who you actually are.
All right, shall I ask the last question?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay. Please, no pressure. It's not an epic one or anything. But,
How dare you?
all right. So it's kind of related to something Sunmin said earlier about the trope of the like suffering artist. So do you think artists make more interesting art or music or whatever when they're still discovering themselves and their art, either insecure or just uncertain? Or do you think the more interesting artwork is unlocked once that has been attained already?
Could you repeat that last part of the question?
Sorry. Like do you think more interesting artwork is unlocked once they've already attained the security or the certainty of who they are? Or do you think that they're more interesting and valuable as an artist when they're like not sure yet, they're still kind of discovering themselves? Because I hear this thing with comedians too, like some people will say like comedians are only funny when their lives are fucked up and sad and like they hate themselves, you know?
In Harold Speed's drawing book, he has a word for this that I've used, because I've thought about this a lot. And like the first time I thought about this is with music, because a lot of the bands that I like there's like this sweet spot where like right where they're kind of discovering and like becoming more themselves, but before it becomes like perfect. And the word that he uses is dither. I think it's like a mechanical engineering kind of thing where it's like, if the parts fit perfectly, then it's not going to work. There has to be some kind of play and imperfection for there to be interest. And I don't think it's inevitable that this happens. I think as long as you're aware of if things are too perfect, if there's no life to it, then it doesn't necessarily have to turn out that way. But there are tons of examples of that actually happening. And I think it is something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
I think what I wanted to say about this whole thing. Oh, sorry, did I talk over somebody?
No. Go ahead.
Okay. I think that people who are in pain, who do art, they are putting all of that emotion into their art. And I think that it's just a personal opinion, but I think what I personally do with art is that I'm either trying to give them a sense of nostalgia, like something that they've experienced before, and I'm trying to hone into that, or I'm trying to give them a new experience, or I'm trying to express an emotion. I think that when you're in pain, you're so focused on that pain and getting it out, you're actually expressing an emotion pretty purely, you know? And they feel that, like whoever's experiencing that piece is feeling that pain, you know, or they're relating to that pain. I think that can work any other way, you know. If you could figure out a way to hone into other emotions like happiness or confusion or, you know, whatever, right? Frustration or whatever. If you can figure out like how well you're condensing that emotion into your art with other emotions, I feel like you could get that successfully done as well. So I don't know if it's just about pain. I think when you're in pain and you're angry, you're so focused on it. You're so hyper focused on it, on that emotion, and that's why it comes across so well. And maybe you can figure out a way to do that for other emotions and be successful as well, you know? But that's just a general thought on it. But
I think that's similar to what I would say. It's like, regarding if it's more interesting and more relatable, I don't know if that matters, but like each artist has their own like place that's swirling around them emotionally, mentally, psychologically from their past or not. Because if you take two different artists who I admire, Ian McCaig, it's very clear that there's a positivity circling in his universe, and he's a filter for that, and it's coming through with the way he talks, the way he draws and builds worlds. And it's like, it's interesting and it's great, so it works. Cha-ching. On the other side of the spectrum, the writer who does the lyrics and sings for Tool, a lot of it is ethereal and like talks about, you know, the pain of losing his mother or the inner child who is abandoned at the age of 11, and like he's still dealing with that, and it's swirling his world, and it comes through. He's a filter for that emotion. So I think whether or not he feels secure the way Ian McCaig doesn't matter. It's just a different output, and I think the pain output might relate only to people who also feel that pain. Same with the positivity. Maybe it's a wider audience. So I don't know. I don't know if it's more or less interesting, but it's just going to be particular to each artist. Lip? You look like
Yeah, no, I had to giggle because I thought about something that you, while you were talking. To me, it has to do a little bit with, you know, if you're really in dire straits, people, or sort of when you're bored, people get more religious, you know, because they kind of need something. And I feel like when we're in pain or frustrated, we kind of pay more attention. We have to go back and no, I have to really express that. It's so important. But if we're happy, like, I don't want to draw something happy. I'm happy. I might as well get that margarita instead. But if I'm unhappy, I want my art to support me. So it's like
people who leave angry reviews on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something that really makes you just invests you and eats up your soul, you kind of you bring up the time to do it. But if you have this good old time, I'm going to the beach. I'm not drawing that shit. I don't care.
Actually,
this
dude,
guy.
on the you're making me think of something that like lately has been almost divorcing me from art in a weird way, and I'm confused because like I'm a generally thankful person, and I like being present. And related to what Sunmin was saying about using it as an escape, like I used to use art as an escape, and then now I'm like, I don't want to escape. I love life. I love people. I love the real world. Like, what the fuck am I doing wanting to escape from it as I used to? Because but through art, I've been able to position myself to be in such a better place emotionally and physically. I live somewhere I enjoy. The social aspect is low because of COVID, and that's the main, most frustrating aspect. But I just don't want to escape anymore. And so it's like, but I want to do art. I like it. I like the skill that I arrived at, and I want to use it in a positive way. But when I do want to illustrate positive things and magical things, but I don't want to fuse them as an escape anymore. And I also find myself, I'd rather just take a beautiful walk and appreciate more of this life that I don't want to escape from, or go out and listen to music live and be impressed by other people's artwork that is less isolated than painting. Because I find in improving ourselves and our skill in art, we've spent so many hours alone in our room, just like our computer in front of us or whatever. And how about like enjoying other things, yeah, and it does kind of make you put less time into art. So it's a dilemma.
We have shared sessions in VR. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it, but
I mean, it's like, and I don't want to waste time, but it's like building yourself a bar, and then hanging around with your friends on that bar. So that's such
pretty fucking cool.
It's crazy. Like you hang out in that weird shack you just built for the evening, and just hey, let's.
Is it VR chat or something? I don't know.
No, it's like a VR tool where you can go as a group. Like there are maybe 4 or 5 people that you can just build up your shit, and then
Cool.
let's chat in here. Like we
want to do that.
Sometimes we even make a bathroom because you never know.
I like that. It's
Awesome.
fun.
Well, I am hungry, so I'm going to abandon all of you.
I think
No.
it came to a close, but
Yeah, this has been such a fun talk. I'm glad I got to meet new faces and artwork and some old faces as well. So, but yeah,
it's been really nice, guys. Thank you so
final
much.
words from each of you. By the way, all the links of their artwork and stuff is down below. Be sure to check it out. Follow everyone. But yeah, any final words from you, Iris?
No, just thank you guys, and much love. Good luck with everything in your whole life. Love you.
The final words.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
just say thank
stoicism.
you. Yeah, just thanks for having me. I'm always thrilled to exchange ideas just to make sure I got them wrong. So thanks for
Nice.
for that.
Humility.
Anybody, like I might be slow at answering sometimes, but if you want to talk about sauna in general, sort of
Sauna.
wellness related practices, I'm down for any
Heck
time.
yeah.
Just call me. My number is down below.
Awesome.
It's not, but
Just call my name. Sunmin, final words.
Thank you for having me. I hope that my opinions were helpful to somebody.
Oops.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure this. No, wait. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, you were great, Sunmin. Thank you. Right on.
Oh, she's still talking.
Oh, she was muted.
I was like, make it smaller.
Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna hide behind the sun here.
Yeah, I broke it. Sorry, everyone. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then, Devin, any final words?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. And also, if you want to talk about sauna with me, you can always send me a message.
Great. Cool. Well, on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end it with a quick chance encounter video, and from there we'll just see you next time. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and I'll see you all some other time. Hopefully, Lightbox 2022 in person. Get to shake everyone's hands and sketch in each other's sketchbooks. All right. Bye, everyone.
Dirty.
Okay.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye.
Hey, I'm Ethan Becker. Ahmed's firewall's been hacked. Don't worry, I'm not gonna hurt you. Much. Congrats for getting this far. I gotta be honest, he told me, he said, I don't think they're gonna get this far. And I said, no, listen, they're gonna get this far. Trust me. They're gonna do it. There's not many people that believe in you, but I believe in you. Always have, always will, honestly. Between me and you, there's something they should know about him. I hate to be this guy. Ahmed is like the desert. Hot, hot, hot. You fall in the desert, and you're dying, and it's so hot. But when you die, you know what they say, you get cold. So you're hot, but at the same time, you're cold. Doesn't make any sense. This is like Ahmed. He's not always right about everything, but at the same time, he kinda is. I want you to take everything he says with a grain of salt from here on out. Don't listen to him. Don't listen to anything he says, but make sure that you listen to everything he says. His advice is kinda, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that's good. And also his art, but at the same time, it's like, dang, somebody let Pablo Picasso in here. Who did that? Not me. Not me. What I'm trying to say is, I'm going to wrap this all up. You should take my fundamentals class in animation. That's all I'm trying to say. I teach you the fundamentals of animation very simply. It's a great class. I'm going to get out of here, though. That's all I'm trying to say.
Hey everyone, my name is Ahmed Aldoori. I'm a concept artist and former instructor at Art Center College of Design, Brainstorm, CCS, CGMA, and various other places. And I would like to introduce to you this digital painting course that I've created. But before we get into anything, I just want to thank you for the support you've all given me this whole time. And with the support of so many of you, I've been able to put together everything I know about painting into this digital painting course. You want to become a pro illustrator, concept artist, or even just a hobbyist, but you don't have a clear map to get there. And that's where I come in. I spent the last 6 months compiling everything I know from my 20 years of art practice, and I've turned it all into a map. Starting with foundations such as rendering shapes, color theory, painting basic subjects, understanding brushwork, brush economy, all that fun stuff, deconstructing the skull, drawing it from every angle, all the way to master studies, stylized painting, and you'll find yourself at the end of the course doing a concept art project based on everything that we learn in the first 14 lessons. So how does it work? Well, you sign up, you watch the lectures, do the assignments, post them to the community page if you want, and treat it as a self-study, except for those of you who have signed up for the weekly meeting, where I personally critique your work in a virtual classroom setting. I believe learning by repetition is super important. That's what I've sort of presented a lot in this course, and the assignments are tailored for that, as adapted from my time teaching at Art Center. And each of these lessons have step-by-step explanations in real time. If you've ever seen my videos, you know exactly how I teach. And this course is intended to be a substitute for a college-level course. Like, you don't have to pay the $4,000 or $5,000 per class, racking up maybe $200K in debt. With my custom design course, you'd be paying a fraction of that. And of course, I also have payment plan options if you don't want to pay for the whole thing at once. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you soon.